Instagram. Is it a video sharing platform or a photo sharing platform? Let's talk about it.
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
You have a great website, right? Well, make sure you host it at some place that doesn't suck. Hey, it's Brad Newman, fellow VO Pro for 28 years and owner of UpperLevelHosting.com. People ask why us, and that's simple. We make it easy, respect your time, save you money, and just make all the magic happen. You don't need to know all the tech stuff when it comes to hosting your website. We got you. Ask around. Tens of thousands of client interactions later, and 6 years of amazing customer service, and not a single negative complaint, ever. UpperLevelHosting.com.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOPreneur.
Hello and welcome to the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur, ready once again to drop some actionable, practical advice that you can use to grow your voiceover business. I am all about giving you content that can help you to become a more confident and effective marketer. And part of that marketing strategy is going to involve social media. So whenever I see something of note on social media, I want to take a minute to talk about it because I want to be able to give you some tips, some tricks, and some advice that you can use to better use those social media platforms. Just before we get into this week's episode, I do want to take a minute to say thank you to all who signed up for Voiceover Marketing Playbook, a very successful launch for Playbook 3.0, and I am so excited to dive into that content with everybody who signed up to help you on your marketing journey and get through all of your coaching sessions and make sure that you have a better year in 2023. If you were not able to get in this time around, there will be another release. It's coming up in September, and dates will be announced soon at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. So in 2022, Instagram chief Adam Mosseri announced that Instagram was no longer just a square photo sharing platform. And that upset a lot of people because that's what we loved about Instagram, the fact that we could go and we had a place to share our photos. But Instagram, Meta, parent company, they noticed something on social media. What they noticed was that they were getting their butts handed to them by TikTok. And so rather than doubling down on their own unique value proposition in the social media space, they decided, let's just copy what TikTok's doing, and that will no doubt bring us great success. And so that's what they did. They took their beautiful little photo sharing app that we all loved, and they turned it into a TikTok wannabe. All of the focus for Instagram in 2022 was put on Reels. And so if you were using Instagram for content, for marketing your voiceover business in 2022, chances are you were doing it with Reels. And you heard me constantly talking about the importance of Reels and focusing on that short-term video content. Well, now it's 2023. And apparently everything has changed all over again. Instagram chief Adam Mosseri has now said, I think we over-focused on video in 2022 and pushed ranking too far and basically showed too many videos and not enough photos. We've since balanced. So things like how often someone likes photos versus videos and how often someone comments on photos versus videos are roughly equal, which is a good sign that things are balanced. That is a direct quote from Adam Mosseri. So what he's saying, without actually saying it, is we screwed up and now we're trying to fix it. We knew that we had something cool going on with Instagram and photo sharing, but we didn't want to get beat by TikTok, so we decided to copy TikTok. But by copying TikTok, we realized, wow, we're just another TikTok now, and we bring nothing unique to the picture. So the end result of this is, Mosseri goes on to say, photos are always going to be an important part of what we do. Fantastic. What does that mean for the everyday VOpreneur who is trying to figure out how in the world to use these social media platforms in order to successfully market their voiceover businesses? It really does feel like Instagram has kind of lost its way. And I don't know if that's specifically an Instagram thing or if that's just a Meta thing in general. I have a feeling that maybe it's a Meta thing in general. But in trying to keep up with all of the other platforms and what they were doing, And by doing the exact same thing that all of the platforms do, they really just lost their own identity. What is the purpose of Instagram if all you're doing is going on the platform to see the exact same content that you just saw on TikTok? It was also a problem for users, both the ones who create content and the ones who consume the content, because it's really hard to know how to use a platform when you can't figure out what that platform is trying to do. And so now with Instagram, you've got photos, you've got reels, and you've got stories, the three main forms of content. And it can be tough as a content creator and a marketer to figure out where to focus your time and attention. Now, as with any social media platform, I think ultimately the user base is going to decide. So what does that mean? It means that the content that we choose to consume and the content that we choose to engage with on Instagram is ultimately going to dictate for Instagram what kind of content we want to see and what kind of platform we want it to be. But that in and of itself provides a clue for you as a creator. So with that in mind, I want to give you 5 tips for how to experiment with Instagram in 2023 and try to find your voice on the platform in the midst of all of the changes that are taking place and this new shift that brings photos back into the mix. So tip number 1, stories. I think stories are a lot of fun, and I will be the first to admit that stories is something that I was a very late adopter on. I've been on Instagram for a long time, but I just never did anything with stories until probably about a year ago, maybe a little longer. But they're really fun, and one of the reasons why I like them is because they're great for short-term content. They expire in 24 hours. Whatever you share in your story, 24 hours, and it's gone. They're also great because they allow for a mix of photo and video. So you get to play around a little bit with both of them, right? Both sides of Instagram. An interesting stat worth noting, 500 million Instagram accounts use stories each day, and 1/3 of the most viewed stories are from businesses. So that means that users are likely to engage with stories and very likely to engage with stories from businesses and brands. I like to use stories for random insights into my day, and I also use stories to share some of the more personal insights into my life. And that's an intentional choice because there are certain things that I share that I just don't want to exist on the internet forever. And before you go speculating about what kind of content that is, I promise you I'm not doing anything too crazy. It's things like pictures of my baby that maybe I don't want to be on the internet forever, but I know people like to see that sort of stuff, and so I can share it in my stories, and in 24 hours it's gone. So I do think that it is worth playing around with stories. And another thing that I like about stories is that it doesn't have to require a great deal of thought. It doesn't have to require a great deal of production value. You're just posting stuff quickly, posting stuff on the whim, random insights into your day that just give people a chance to get to know you a little bit more personal. And it really can tell a story as you build on it throughout the day. So I do think it's worthwhile to spend some time engaging with stories. Tip number 2. Short-form video content is not going away. Regardless of what is going on Instagram, regardless of what ultimately happens with the platform and the algorithm, we know that short-form video content is not going away. So if you're already creating it, keep using it. It can work on Instagram, but it can also work on TikTok, and it can also work on YouTube Shorts. So if you are creating that content, you've got 3 different places where you can very easily share it. You can also share it on Facebook Reels as well. So that's actually 4 places for your short-form video content, each one of those places giving you access to an audience. Now, the one tip here, though, if you are going to cross-post content, make sure that it is unbranded content. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to create a video in TikTok, but you want to share that TikTok video on Instagram, make sure that it does not have the TikTok logo. If you are sharing branded content on Instagram, it's going to recognize it and it's going to squash it. So if you're creating short-form video content, make sure as you post it to each platform that you post a clean version of the video that doesn't have another platform's logo. Hopefully that makes sense. The other thing I would say is don't blitz it to all of them at the same time. If you're creating that content for TikTok, if it's evergreen content in particular, let it exist for a day on TikTok and then flip it over to Instagram at a different time of the day to try to target a different kind of audience. But again, Regardless of what is going on here, just because they're focusing on photos again, it does not mean that they are giving up on video. Tip number 3, keep posting the pictures. This was a big frustration. It was a big pain point for a lot of people because in 2022, if you were heavily relying on photos, you probably saw your reach squashed. I did. And that's one of the reasons why I started putting more attention on stories, because whatever I lost in organic reach from photos, I more than made up for with the amount of reach that I was getting through my Instagram stories. But now, in 2023, the algorithm is supposed to be more balanced. And so you should be able to start getting more reach on your photos that you share on Instagram again. Whether the executives realize it or not, Instagram at its heart is a photo sharing platform. And anybody that's been on that platform for a while, I think we all feel that way. That is the sentiment, that it was a photo sharing platform. So to hear Instagram say we screwed up and we're going to bring photos back, we're going to give more attention to photos, it feels like a win. So grab hold of that and start sharing photos again. Put a little bit of extra time and attention into posting pictures and including that as part of your Instagram strategy. Tip number 4 is pay attention to the metrics. Here's the thing you ultimately need to understand. Instagram, like any social media platform, is designed to keep people on the platform as long as possible. Because the longer that people are on the platform, the more ads that they can push to people. The more ads that they can push to people, the more money they can make. So regardless of what is going on, 2021, they're a photo platform. 2022, they're a video platform. 2023, they're a photo and video platform. What will ultimately decide what kind of platform they are is the content that gets the most engagement and keeps people on the platform. So what does that mean for you as a content creator and a marketer? Pay attention to the metrics. What content that you are creating is getting the most views? Is it your stories? Is it your reels? Is it your photos? Which content is drawing the most likes? And most importantly, which content is getting the most comments? The comments one in particular heavily drives the algorithm. So if you see that you are consistently getting more comments on your photos, keep focusing on photos. Again, don't abandon video, but maybe put a little bit of extra effort into the photos. And vice versa, if you see that you are continuing to get high engagement, lots of comments, lots of views on your reels, then that's fine. Keep focusing there. But there will be clues in the metrics, and whatever that data says is ultimately going to decide what kind of platform Instagram is going to be in 2024, I suppose. My final tip would be have a backup platform. If there's one thing we've learned in the midst of all of this, it's that relying too heavily on one platform for your marketing efforts is a dangerous game. If you were heavily invested in the photography side of Instagram in 2021 and drawing a ton of engagement, then you probably got crushed in 2022. Through no fault of your own, they just changed the rules. And it's a reminder that when you don't own the platform, you're subject to their rules and their whims, and we need to protect ourselves against that. How do we do that? By having other platforms that we can rely on. That's where a LinkedIn comes into play, or maybe it's a TikTok, or maybe it's a YouTube Shorts. So in 2022, user engagement on Reels was about 35% higher than it was in other types of content. So Reels definitely did get the push last year. It's worth noting, though, just because Instagram says now that they're going to focus more on photos in 2023, they did not say that they were going to abandon video content. They're trying to find that balance. So there's still a place for both types of content, and that is something that you are going to want to take into consideration as you are creating your content strategy for this platform and using these platforms to market your business. I know this can feel very frustrating. I know this can feel very overwhelming. I know that for some of you, it's probably making you want to say, screw it and quit the whole thing, and I completely understand that. There's still opportunities on these social media platforms. They still give you access to huge audiences. There's still potential for incredible reach. And so I still think the platforms are worth using. You just have to keep up to be able to play by the rules. And that's what episodes of the podcast like this one are designed for, to help you keep up and to help you continue to play by the rules. Now, one other tip when it comes to photo content. Experiment not only with actual photography, which is great, and not every picture needs to be a, professional photography grade picture. We're still all going to post pictures of what we had for lunch because, I don't know, somewhere in its core, that's what Instagram is. But don't be afraid to experiment with some graphic design type content as well. The productivity geek in me doesn't want to even mention the word Canva because I like to joke that Canva is where time and productivity go to die. But the other side of that is Canva is where creativity goes to flourish. I am totally addicted to Canva. I am not afraid to admit it. If you have seen any of the graphics that I post particularly on Facebook in the VOPRENEUR group, but also on LinkedIn and periodically on Instagram, which I will be doing more of now, by the way, it's all created in Canva. I love Canva. Canva will be your friend. And you really can create some stunning content, quote graphics, testimonials, things of that nature. So try mixing some of that stuff in with your regular photography as well. It's nice to see photography coming back to Instagram. It's nice to see that side of the coin is going to get a little bit of love again. That was what I enjoyed on the platform. I'll be honest with you, I am not a big consumer of Reels. I find a lot of them, I don't know, maybe I'm just in the wrong demographic, but I will scroll through cool pictures and I will read captions on cool pictures as well. And evidently there are people out there who feel the same, and that is why Instagram has recognized this and they're making the change. I'll give them credit for that. If you are going to use Instagram for your marketing efforts for your voiceover business, and I think it's a worthwhile platform to be on, you've just got to understand what's going on there. Experiment with all the different types of content, the stories, the reels, and the photos. Pay attention to the metrics and let the metrics give you clues so that you can determine where you might want to put a little bit more of your effort. And then, we'll revisit this in 6 months and see whether or not they've changed their minds all over again. I hope this has been helpful to you. And hey, while we're talking about Instagram, if you are enjoying this episode right now, if you've picked up a few helpful tips from this episode, you've heard me talking about Instagram stories, take a picture or video of yourself listening to this episode of the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, share it in your Instagram stories and tag me at Mark Scott. I'll find it, I'll share it, and I'll help you get a little bit more organic reach, and you'll help me get a little bit more organic reach. And it's you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and together we figure out how to use Instagram scenarios. So post it in your stories, tag me at Mark Scott. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOpreneur podcast. Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Having your voiceover demos easily playable and downloadable on your website is essential. The VoiceZam player lets you do that across any device and browser. There are also options for adding play buttons in your email signature, tracking your listens, and even putting videos in your demo player. Sign up now at voicezam.com/Mark Scott and receive an instant $25 credit. For full details and to claim this offer, visit voicezam.com/Mark Scott.
And scene.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOpreneur.com.